Welcome to another edition. God, we're winding down on the Slingin Dirt. There's only probably 4 more weeks left to go till all the seasons wrap up at the tracks, and we won't have anything left to talk about?
Well, no, we could possibly be going all the way up through middle of September, and then we might take a 3-4 week hiatus, and we might do an occasional Slingin Dirt near the end of the season. We got the Cornhusker Classic coming up at I-80, a big timing. We got to get you to some of these big races. And
I've been going to these big races.
Really?
I went to the Silver Dollar Nationals.
Yeah, well, where were you this last Saturday when I was at the Relay for Life charity kart race?
Nobody told me about it.
It was on Slingin Dirt last week.
Oh, that's right. I forgot all about it. I apologize, I forgot. But this is Slingin Dirt, brought to you by Lost Dog Design, lostdogdesign.com. Talk to Raina and Dave. They're going to take care of all of your website design, all of your graphics design, and all of your social media working. Your Facebook, your Twitter, even if you got a MySpace page. I wonder if they'll do a MySpace page. Does anybody have one of those anymore?
Yeah, 13-year-olds.
Yeah, so maybe not your MySpace page, but they'll take care of all your social networking. And I got to tell you guys, as drivers, you have more important things to worry about than posting on Facebook and Twitter and updating your websites and all that stuff. Let Raina and Dave at Lost Dog Design take care of everything for you. Again, lostdogdesign.com. Well, a bit of a tearful moment for us at Crawford County Speedway. My first season as announcer wrapped up, and I didn't do the greatest, but I don't think I did the worst.
No, I'm going to question you about this. What was the most rewarding and what was the most challenging part of, your first year in dirt? That's a loaded question.
No, this is going to sound completely schmuckish, but you know as well as I do, I don't like to give you credit just because I love giving you
we don't like to give each other credit at all.
But you set me up with the job at Crawford County Speedway, and I greatly appreciate it. And because of that, I met my girlfriend, who's a great girl. She's a lot of fun, and she's added a little bit of spice to my life, which I definitely needed. But going to dirt tracks on Friday nights and Saturday nights each and every week, I've definitely got dirt in my blood now, and it's because I've drank it through my beer.
Literally,
it's because it's been caked on me after the races.
Literally,
and it's because it's the most entertaining thing in the world. People sit there, and I had my own family was the same way. My uncle years and years ago was a midget racer, and my family, I never knew my uncle was a midget racer until I was about 6-7 years old. And we went and watched him at the Montgomery County Fair where I grew up, and he went and raced a special there, and that was his last race. And we never really talked about it after that. My family is not big into NASCAR; they're not big into dirt tracks, and I begged him to come. I said, "You got to come and just watch this one time, just see what happens. I think you're going to like it." They all came out, my nieces, my nephew,
And you didn't introduce me?
No.
That was by design, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. That was banner night at Crawford County, by the way.
Oh, okay.
And I talked to my dad, who's a hardcore farmer, and thinks that, and this is kind of funny, thinks that all drivers and all race fans are rednecks. Coming from a farmer, he thinks drivers and race fans are rednecks, and he enjoyed it. He goes, I'll come back a couple of times next year. And
you thought we're all a bunch of rednecks?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we are the only people that think that when you get screwed, you're dealing with nuts and bolts. But.
Right. But I had an absolutely a blast this year at Crawford. I met some great people. I had so much fun. I learned a ton. I mean, going back and watching the first race and listening to it on Crawford's webpage, and I grew a lot as a driver, as an announcer, and understanding how to do things and what to talk about, and adding some, my book of information that I've got. So I had an absolute fun, and I thank you so much for calling me and saying, "Hey, Crawford needs an announcer. Can you do it?"
Calling you, you're in the front seat of the pickup. Remember we were driving around, and I was like, "Hey, you want to be an announcer at Crawford?"
No, you called me, and then we went and drove around. Then we met with him.
Oh, okay, that might have been.
You called. Remember, I was sitting in my kitchen.
What was the hardest part of being involved in dirt this year?
Honestly, the fact that I didn't know diddly squat. I mean, when I started this season, I couldn't tell you the difference between a sport compact and a sport mod. I had no idea what a hobby stock was, what a Hornet was, what an A mod, B mod, modified, late model, sprint car, wingless, midget. I had no idea what any of those cars were. And the first time they rolled out onto the track at Crawford, I didn't have my starting lineup. I didn't have anybody sitting in the booth with me telling me what was going on. And what I know now, the sport compacts roll out, and I'm sitting there going, shit.
What the hell is this?
I've got nothing. I don't know who's anybody's car was. I don't know what driver's what. I don't know if it's a guy or a girl. I mean, you don't know anything. And then my Randy Tiffy, one of the race promoters, ran up there, had a radio, and said, "Hey, Dan, this is a Sport Compacts." I said, "Okay, great." And I had to do the first heat race just announcing car numbers because they couldn't get the email. They couldn't get the lineup emailed to me.
Yeah, but, and to your defense, a lot of people were wanting to throw you under the bus and drive over you with the bus and then back up and drive over you with the bus again. I went up there and I helped you a couple nights, and we had a lot of fun up there, But Denison is, it's not a new track, but it's the first time that it went back to weekly racing since 1997. So, the staff was new, inexperienced. There were some growing pains there. You got to experience that. But now, is it safe to assume that if they offered you the role, you'd be back next year in 2013?
They have, and I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I've already got stuff lined up for next year as far as what I want to do, some changes I want to make, and talking with the officials. They've opened me with welcome arms. I mean, I don't know anything about dirt track. I still don't know anything about dirt track. I've learned a little bit. I've learned a little bit about this community, but they have turned to me and said, "What would you change? What are some of the things you'd like to see differently with the way we do things at Crawford?" And I mean, that's huge. I mean, I give them a lot of credit for not turning and looking and saying, "That guy doesn't know anything. Let's ignore him." They've turned to me and said, "What do you think?" And that means a lot to me. And I think I had some good insight as far as what I would change for next season.
As a driver, I didn't know what in the hell to expect when I went to Denison, and I have to admit that while there was some issues throughout the year, and I'm not going to say that they're bad or they're good, there were just issues. I mean, any track's got them. The officials and the staff at Denison are very gracious people when it comes to their patients.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go on air, on public, for the record, and tell you without a doubt, if I should have gotten fined, suspended, kicked out, and banned for life from a racetrack, Denison probably had every right in the world to do that to me after the first couple nights.
Yeah, and I think having some conversations and having the inside track that I did, I think if you hadn't have called and apologized, I don't think they'd have been heartbroken after what was it, week 3, when you said you weren't coming back, and you kind of went on Facebook and trashed them a little bit, and you called some drivers and said, "Don't go to that piece of shit track," and then once you calmed down, you thought about it, you called some guys on Sunday and you said, "Listen, I'm sorry," and you came back in week 4 and you had a great run, and you came back in week 5 and you had a great run.
Not to pat myself on the back, but if I remember, I was even up in your announcer's booth, and I even formally apologized in the announcer's booth to the fans and whatnot. And that is another thing. For Crawford County to get the number of fans that they did this year was absolutely spectacular. That was amazing.
They may not want me saying this, but they averaged about 2,000 people a week. And that is huge. For a track that came back for being dormant for 7 years.
And 7 years since 97.
I thought it was 7 years.
1997 was the last year weekly racing, but they've done a couple specials every year.
Yeah. You're right. I think it was 2007 was the last week. No, you're right. Whatever. But anyways, so I still don't know enough that I should. But, they have done a great job with each and every week sitting down and addressing the issues and coming up with a positive solution. They've had a lot of things that I thought their hands were tied as far as on. They had 2 drivers this year that they fined because they were acting like idiots, doing something wrong, and they fined them heavily. Well, the drivers just didn't come back, and that worked against Crawford's favor because those 2 were good drivers that put butts in seats. So the week after the whole Matt Bonine, Josh Most incident, instead of telling drivers, "Okay, we're going to fine you," because they're not an IMCA sanctioned track. So they went against them when they gave Josh Most a $500 fine. Josh Most just said, "I won't come back to Crawford." He could have said that. Instead, I give Most credit. He paid the fine.
Oh, yeah.
Matt Bonine, on the other hand, said, and he ended up paying the fine eventually also, but there was another driver that said, "I'm not going back to Crawford because it doesn't affect me at all. I'll go race at other tracks." And it didn't affect him, and it hurt Crawford. So instead what Crawford did was said, "You guys want to cause trouble, you guys want to fight on the track, that's fine. We're not going to fine you. See that police car over there? We're going to tell them. You'll spend the night in jail, and you'll pay the great county of Crawford a fine for what you did. And then you will pay your price."
And
so we're not going to fine you.
That sheriff's deputy was actually pitted right behind my car a couple times.
And guess what? Never happened again.
I never chewed anybody's rear end out.
There was not a fight. There was not an argument. There was a couple of heated battles on track, but for the most part, everyone calmed down. And I think they did a great job, and I cannot wait to be back in 2013.
Crawford County this year, they really improved on their track surface. As a driver, I've got to tell you, we've been on all kinds of different track surfaces. In the last, I'd say about the last 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks, that track surface, it was smooth, it was dry slick. And here's the fun thing about Crawford County. You know, when you go racing, you've been to Ida, you've been to Eagle, you can see that transition where it goes from, the dark brown heavy to all of a sudden it gets like that grayish brown and it's dry slick. Crawford County, and this is kind of fun with your setup, Crawford County doesn't always do that. Yeah. It'll stay dark and brown, and it's fairly heavy. Well, then, come intermission time, you're like, well, what's your track going to do? Well, it's going to stay pretty heavy down there. We dug down about 3 inches, found all the mud. Well, come feature time, it's dark, brown, looks heavy. You get out there, holy crap, it's dry slick.
Yeah.
But it's smooth, and their track prep was actually really good by the end of the year.
They did a great job. They kept improving on it as the season went on, and they got it together. So they did a great job there. And to go back and answer your original question, what was the hardest thing about announcing this year? I think coming back for week 2 was my hardest thing. I wanted to quit after week 1. I did such a bad job, and you encouraged me, and Lindy, my girlfriend, encouraged me. We weren't dating at the time, but she said, just give it another week. And Randy and all the officials, I was down in the pits drinking a beer, trying to relax, and I was so mad at myself because I've been doing radio for 14 years now, and 12, 13 years now, and I know what sounds good, and I know how to do it. Like you in the car. Yep. You know how to be successful. You know how to win, and when you don't do it, it makes you that much matter.
Yeah. Yep.
That makes you that much more mad. So when I came back for week 2, I honestly did not expect to come back for week 2, but I had a great time. And if you haven't been to Crawford, you got to come back for next year.
Oh, great track! So, there's actually rumors floating around. I just found out yesterday that you may not be done this year.
Really?
There might be a little something coming up in late September.
Well, I'd love to come back and keep doing more. So I had an absolutely great time. And if I can give one message to the officials at Crawford County, and this is kind of be one of those inside baseball inside jokes, but how about that air conditioner, boys? How about that air conditioner?
It's not that they didn't want to get you an AC. You had enough people screaming at you from the front of the announcer's box. What do you need an AC for? You got all that air blown into them.
No, they talked about at the beginning of the season. They said, we got your announcer's booth up, and it was Randy Tiffy that was telling me. He kept me updated. He said, we got your announcer's booth up, got electricity ran to it. We're going to have your air conditioner and show up the first week, which was cool and cold, so it wasn't a big issue. And he said, next week we're going to have the air conditioner next week. Week 3, week 4, week 5, still nothing. And there wasn't even electricity ran.
You didn't need to get people yelling at you.
And finally, they got a hole cut in the roof. And then finally, they got the electrical wiring ran. Last week, the last Friday, they actually installed the box for the air conditioner, but there's still a hole in the roof. So,
is that the hole that I climbed in and almost got stuck that night?
Yep. Yeah, you were going to go sit at the top. So, But how about we talk about what happened at Crawford County for the final weeks? Results from August 10th, last Friday night, the final full week at Crawford County, but an absolutely awesome battle for the Sport Compacts. It was coming down to such a tight battle. Deb Brosh had simply a 13-point lead over Alex Davis, who was second, and Patrick Ordinas, who was third. There was 11 cars that showed up, so when Deb started the field, she was going to win the championship, but it was very, very close all year, and it was great to see Deb win. Such a nice girl, such a nice lady, and
very down to earth.
Huge supporter of this feature when we do the Slingin Dirt, and I love talking to Deb. She's such a great girl, and though that 22 team worked very hard all year long and just slowly worked themselves up, and she was, when you talk about NASCAR and when you talk about dirt track racing, you talk about if you're going to win the points, you got to be consistent.
Yep.
And Deb was simply consistent, and she deserved to win. I'm so happy for her to win. I know she was just absolutely elated down in the pits. She wins the championship. And Alex Davis finishes second. Patrick Ordinas finishes third. Shannon Malberg, that guy I hope he comes back for next season.
He is fun to watch.
I would bet the house that he's going to win the points next year. He only didn't win it this year because he didn't show up for the first 5 weeks, and that's a bit of a dent on your points. He went from having absolutely no points to the last 6 weeks. He got himself 353 points. You can only get 40 points in the night, and he won 4 out of the last 6 races. Malberg won 5 out of the last 6 races at Crawford. Shannon finished 3rd on August 10th. Tim Cass ended up taking home the checkered, but Shannon did an absolutely great job this year. I was so happy for him. He finished 4th in the points and finished in the pay, and then Tim Cass, because of his win, he comes up a position and finishes 5th and gets himself into the pay window too. So great battle there with the Sport Compacts. For your hobby stock division, Bill Richards comes home with the victory. Craig Brotherton 2nd, Cody Gustav 3rd, Jason Fusselman 4th, and Kevin Brook finished 5th. Because of that, Donnie Gustav walks away with the points championship. Justin Nearing, who I would have bet would have won that championship.
See, that's what was shocking to me because I would have thought he would have won that myself.
Definitely. Jason Fusselman finishes 3rd. Cody Gustav finishes 4th. And Willie Ransom, Willie Ransom out of Irwin, Iowa, comes home in 5th and finishes in the points. For your Sport Compacts, I didn't think this race was ever going to get finished on Friday night. What the hell was going on with you guys?
In the Sport Mods or Sport Compacts?
Sport Mods. I think we had 4 wrecks and not even 1 lap.
You know, and I say this a lot on the Slingin and on the front stretch on 590 AM, but as a driver, this is not fun for us to be out here with all these cautions because some of us, you know, here on the Slingin I think it was Slingin about 3 weeks ago, we were talking to Josh Most, and the guys that win the races, they're not lollygagging around. They're passing all the cars in the first 3, 4, 5 laps.
Yep.
But then you have some guys, just like in NASCAR, that may not do that. They might wait till that 4th, 5th, 6th lap so the cars kind of get spread out. So, you know, and that's the kind of driver I am. You know, so when I see this 2 and 3 green laps caution, 2, 3 laps caution, just like you just did, you're rolling your eyes. You're like, oh God, when the hell can I get out of this damn car?
You know, you absolutely hate me when I say this, but a wreck is exciting as long as the driver walks away safe and sound. It's exciting to see that. And at Crawford, we saw 2 or 3 different times, I think even 4 or 5 different times where we saw rollovers. And the crowd went, oh, and the announcer went, oh my God, they're rolling in turn 1, you know, and everyone just gasps. And then it's the silence as you wait for the driver to crawl out from underneath the car and everyone starts clapping and cheering. But that is the most exciting thing, and we didn't have that at all during the Sport Compacts. That was the most
Sport Mods.
God damn it. That was the most uneventful wrecking I've ever seen. It was spinning.
Yep.
And then this absolutely pisses me off, and I know it makes other fans mad when you guys do this too, but I understand why you do it. When you spin and you sit there and you wait, and then the caution comes out, and then, all of a sudden you're able to get the car refired and pull away. I know why. It's because you don't want to go so far from the back of the field.
No, that's not why. Most of us do not have alternators on our cars. So when we spin out, it actually kills the car. Well, then we have to sit there for about 30 seconds to a minute. And then once the engines, a lot of times the engines, trainees, mainly the engines, once the car cools off a little bit, it'll actually fire. When we come into the pits after the feature and we go into tech, a lot of the times our cars are running 230, 250 degrees. The motors are so hot, it won't spin the motor over until they cool down to about 2 to 230, and then they'll fire up.
See, and it seems so much that the driver's alone, when he spins, fields a straightaway away, and they just sit there and they wait. And as soon as the caution comes out, they magically get the car fired back up. Yeah, and it seems to me that I think, despite what you said, I think 95% of the time it's because they know that if they wait for the caution to come out, they can rejoin the field at the back of the field. If they don't, they're going to get lapped. And that we saw a lot of that during the Sport Mods on Friday night.
But on the Sport Mods, you saw it on the last points night. What did I say? The last points night. Did you see that all year long?
No, that was a one-time thing.
Last points night. Well, why? Because all the points were really close, and
were the officials coming over the radio and going, "Okay, guys, get your crap together"? Because I kind of wondered that. I couldn't hear them.
They didn't say get your crap together, but let's just say Kay Shirky, I love her to death.
I love Kay.
When she tells you rack 'em and stack 'em, boys, and let's put a good show on, and when we hear we're going single file restarts, we know the end is near. That if we do another caution, it's going to agree.
Oh, I know they put a time limit on you guys because I think your guys' feature took about 20 minutes to finish, and fans were getting irritated. Officials were really getting irritated. You could hear it on their official radio. They were kind of cussing.
The drivers are getting irritated too.
I can imagine. But anyway, so Keegan Scott comes home with the victory. Logan Scott finishes second. Corey Hatchetson out of Plattsmouth, Nebraska, a newcomer to Crawford for the last couple of weeks.
Loves it there.
Finished third. Steve Reitz finished fourth. Tara Longnecker. I never did get a chance to go down and talk to her. She finishes fifth. Because of the points, a lot of mix-up. I thought we were going to see a big mix-up in the points because right from the beginning, Logan was having issues and he was marred in the back of the pack. Keegan was right up in front and he was leading. He was doing great. He was putting cars down, and then all of a sudden, Logan got his wheels underneath him and he took off and finished second in the night. So Keegan Scott, despite losing the points championship, gets the win for the night. His twin brother, both 17 years old. Obviously, if they're twins, they're 17. Yeah. Logan comes home with the points championship. Tara Longnecker, good to see her finishing third, and Evan Nimitz finishing fifth. Hometown boy Evan Nimitz coming home out of Denison, Iowa.
Who are you forgetting there?
Did I forget? Did I miss somebody? You had a great season at Crawford. It was good to see you come back. Buddy Ray Jones out of Council Bluffs, Iowa, in the Joe's Karting. Party Pantry number 25 brings her home in fourth place. And I got to applaud, Bud. You did a great job. I've got all of my records back to May 25th. And as of that night, May 25th, you finished 16th, and you were 13th in the points, and you battled your way back all the way to a fourth place finish. It was really good. I think May 25th was that second week in a row that you wrecked, and you swore up and down you were never coming back. You went on Facebook and you cussed your ass off at the officials in the track and the state of Iowa and the city of Denison, and screw this. And you came back for another week and you got yourself, June 8th is when you had yourself a third place finish. You rattled off another great finish, finishing second on June 22nd. So consistency.
A lot of top tens there.
You did great, and I'm very proud of you coming home fourth. So I give you a lot of crap, but good job, buddy.
That actually wasn't me doing a good job. That was Nate Hernandez, Harley Meyer, and my dad. They have worked their asses off all year. They've put that car on the track, not me. I was just a poor schmuck that got to drive the car, but it was all them that got us to fourth. It wasn't me by no means.
For your stock car division, Chris Ulrich comes home with the victory. Donovan Smith finishes second. Terry Cluckey finishes third. Adam Cluckey finishes fourth. And Bill Reitz finishes fifth. You want to talk about a points battle that was extremely close. Again, 10-point spread between 1 and 2. Donovan Smith had the lead walking in. Chris Ulrich was in second place, 10 points behind again in that 01U car. And from the very beginning, Donovan Smith had issues, and you thought, oh my God, Chris Ulrich is going to pull this off.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Chris has issues, and you think, oh, okay. Now all of a sudden, Adam Cluckey, who was 16 points behind, could pull this off because he was running great. Then he had issues. And the fifth place finisher, Tony Ritter, everybody in the top 5 had their issues, and they all happened in order they were walking into in the points. Chris Ulrich and Donovan Smith end up getting their issues fixed. They got their cars corrected. I think Donovan had a flat tire. I think Chris also had a flat tire. And Donovan went 2 or 3 times through the pits trying to get that car corrected and eventually gets it right and finishes second. And Chris Ulrich finishes first. But Donovan Smith out of Lake City comes home with the points championship. And I think if there was any other driver that could have beat Donovan, it was Chris Ulrich. That guy had a great car.
Chris Ulrich was awesome. He's fun to watch every week.
Yeah.
Every week.
Adam Cluckey comes home third. Tony Ritterbusch comes home fourth. Alec Ellis finishes in the pay window for the championships at Crawford County Speedway in fifth place. He was 41 points behind our points leader. So Donovan Smith again comes home with the championship.
How many Cluckeys is there? Is there 1 or 2?
There's 2 Cluckeys. And by the way, if I could send a message to the drivers at Crawford County Speedway, for God's sakes, pick a different number than 35.
A lot of 35s.
Donovan Smith has a 35. Alec Ellis has a 35X. Terry Cluckey has a 35K. And I think there was a couple of other 35s that showed up throughout the season, 35s and 35s and 35s. And listen, you may be sitting there thinking, well, a 35X isn't too hard to see from a 35. That's not big letters. I mean, they're little tiny things, and I can't see that crap. I'm blind. I've got binoculars going. I can't see if it's who's who. So please, for the love of God.
I have never met the Cluckies. But I'm sorry, the little kid in me loves that name, the Cluckies.
I know.
It's like we're going to go blown through the hen house tonight, or we're going to go see a chicken dancing on a hot plate with the Cluckies, or the Clucky chicken dancer. I'm thinking there's a ton of chickens on the track with the Cluckies out there.
Yeah.
Never met them. Hope to one of these days. Maybe get them on the show, but you'd love to meet the Cluckies.
They did great. So for your United Bank of, I'm so used to saying this stuff. For the late model division out of Crawford, it was actually wrapped up on August 3rd. Jason Haney comes home with the points championship. Jeff Siegebart finishes second. Don Beckstrom finishes third. Kyle Siegebart fourth. And Al Zeitner finishes fifth. I really wish Al Zeitner wouldn't have stopped coming for a couple of weeks because he was the only one that had anything for Jason Haney. And when he didn't show up for 2 weeks because of some issues between him and Josh Most, what I heard, speculation, I apologize, I want to throw that out there, that he ended up losing the battle there for the championship. But Jason Haney, that guy deserved to win it.
Oh, yeah.
Ungodly fast. I think it was like 3-4 weeks ago, he had an issue and was sent to the back of the field. I think he was penalized and sent to the back of the field, which was at that time, I think it was 10 cars showed up that night.
You know, the one thing.
And in one lap, he goes from 10th to 2nd.
Oh, yeah.
Just an insane drive.
One person, August 11th, last night for everybody at Crawford County. It's an IMCA points night for the late models, but not for track points.
Yep.
Everybody's like, well, the only reason why Haney's so fast is because there's only 7 or 8 cars. You know what? And that might be, but on that last night on August 11th, we had 15, 20 late models show up, and that was a good damn show to watch.
That was
but
great.
You know what? You had the best of the best in the IMCA late model show up. Haney was still right there, second, third, fourth, something like that.
Haney ends up coming home fifth. Al Zeitner finishes fourth.
Okay, fifth, still.
Newcomers, Ryan Griffith finishes third. Todd Cooney finishes second. And Daryl DeFrance finishes...
Daryl DeFrance is a former IMCA national champion.
That guy was damn good.
He is very good.
Good.
Todd Cooney, he's right up there in the national points every year. Damn good.
Let's wrap up this the point standings and the championships real quick, and then we'll get over to the what are we doing, Shelby?
Yeah, I'll do Shelby County.
Okay. Josh Most comes home in the modified, comes home with the win. Ryan Webb second, Craig Reitz third, Shane DeMay fourth, and Chad Proyle finishes fifth. It was a 20-lap final feature for the championship, and this was one of those, again, it was back and forth who was going to win it because it was just 2 points between Shane DeMay and Red Munson as far as who was going to win the championship when they walked into Friday night. Shane ends up finishing better. Red has an absolutely horrible night, and he finishes 8th. But that could have been a great show. And Josh Most, I don't know if you could see it from the pits.
The right rear rotor glowing?
Oh, my God. You want to talk about when they go to Bristol and they go to Richmond and they get those rotors glowing? Most was the same way, and I saw it glowing on lap 8 or 9, and I thought for sure he was going to melt the bead on that tire and he was going to blow it.
Yeah, he held on
somehow
to it. Wow.
It held together, and he ends up winning.
And he was just pulling away.
Oh my God!
He was setting speed records.
Yeah, Josh ends up finishing 11th in the points, and that's not a discredit to him. He went and ran some specials for a couple of
weeks. Missed 3-4 nights.
Yeah, so he missed out on several points. But Shane DeMay, hometown boy out of Denison, it was great to see him come home with the championship. Just a 5-point lead over Craig Reitz out of Dunlap. Craig comes home second. Red Munson falls to third. Jeff Stevens comes up and finishes fourth. And Chad Proyle ends up finishing fifth. So a great points battle between those guys, and the modifieds definitely put on a hell of a show. Let me pose one last question to you because I know it's the question that track officials at Crawford are asking themselves over the next coming weeks.
I bet you I know what this is.
Do we go IMCA sanctioned? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
So yes. Elaborate why.
I say go IMCA sanctioned for the simple fact in Northwest Iowa, we do not have tracks on a Friday night in Northwest Iowa. We have several other tracks where drivers can come from those IMCA tracks, come to Crawford County on Friday night. Now we have a possible national champion in any one of those classes. We're gonna have regional, state, national champions. that are now going to be running IMCA. Now, we had some rough driving this year. I don't think anybody can deny that. We had some rough driving this year. But, Dan, if you're in a modified sport mod, whatever the hell class car we're talking about, if you know that there's rough driving in the class and IMCA comes in, helps the track out, and they don't tell the track what to do, but when they're sanctioned, IMCA goes, well, here's how our point structure is. The track's got to go by that, and they're like, all right, Dan, you're rough driving, you're beating on Bud pretty good. We're gonna fine you and suspend you for a couple of weeks. Well, guess what that just did to your national point standings?
Oh, it kills you.
It kills you
because you can't race at just not only Crawford but any other IMCA sanctioned track.
Right. So the pay is great, but and drivers are gonna hate me for saying this. I sincerely think we go to other tracks that pay way less money than Crawford County. If it's round and brown, we will drive on it. We will. You build it, they will come. But it's great if they want to keep the pay up there. But if that means we have to lose $100 to the feature winner to pay our IMCA sanctioning, well, Crawford County's going to be like, well, it's going to cost us money. I'm like, yeah, but now you're going from 20 sport mods to 40, 45 sport mods, and we got B features. We're not going to be getting out of Crawford County until midnight, 1 o'clock now. Yeah. But Crawford County's going to be making more money. Well, when you get more cars, you also get more people in the stands. Your concession sales go up. But as a driver, from my driver's perspective, I want IMCA sanctioning because I'm running IMCA Eagle Raceway. I've only got one track for IMCA national points, but if I'm running Denison, now I'm a top 100 driver. Now, if I go to a Sunday night and I go to Raceway Park in my sport mod, now I've got a 3-night swing. I have a legitimate shot at running for a national championship. But once again, Friday nights, there's nobody else running. It doesn't make sense to me. If the drivers want sanctioning, give the drivers what they want. Be fair, be honest, and say, look, guys, if you want it, we'll give it to you, but the payouts may drop a little bit.
I don't have a lot of experience as far as how a track is supposed to go over a season, but from what I saw, Crawford had an extremely successful year. Could have been better. Could have been a hell of a lot worse. I think because of that, you take that into account. You take the constant car count. There was one week where we had 84. That was the least amount of cars we had. There was another week we had 114. That was the best week. Consistently, we had about 90 to 95 cars.
And that's great. I mean, there's other tracks that are paying more to the driver. Yeah. Well, now I shouldn't say paying more that are sanctioned. That are getting less cars.
I think if the season would have gone on and you'd have seen the car count slowly dropping.
And that's typical.
I think Crawford could have said, maybe we do need to go IMCA. But I like the stance that I've heard so far, and that is an unofficial stance, was we would rather not pay IMCA sanctioning fees and pay it to the drivers. I saw one drawback to Crawford not being IMCA sanctioned. It was what we talked about earlier, to where when they fine a driver, the driver could just decide not to come back. If one of your points leaders, the guy who finished, the driver who finished in the top 5 in this year in the points, if they decide, I'm not going to pay that fine and screw it, I'm done with Crawford, it hurts Crawford more than it hurts the driver, because there's more options for drivers out there than there are options for Crawford when it comes to great drivers. But I think they came up with a great solution. I think 95% of the drivers were happy with the track, and I think we're going to see them come back regardless if they're IMCA sanctioned or not. So I tell Crawford, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's doing good. There's no need to get greedy. I don't think fans at Crawford County want to be in the seats till 11:30 midnight watching races because it's just a long night. 5-6 hours of racing is just... Whew, that's a long night. Right now, we're wrapping up about 10:45, 11 o'clock, and I think that's perfect. I think the car count there is perfect. I think they did a lot of things right the last several weeks. They got everything right.
I'm not going to disagree.
My recommendation for Crawford is no, don't go IMCA sanctioned. I think it's a headache that it's just not necessarily a headache that's not worth it. I think it's not necessary.
I do.
But I want to go back and defer to the fact that I don't have a lot of experience in this.
Right.
So you're...
there's one thing I do want to bring up before we move on. Back in the sport compacts, this poor fella has been asking me every single week to mention his name.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I want to be gracious here.
I'm just screwing with him, but don't do it. He didn't win anything. Now I'm just being mean. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Cody Olmstead. The only white boy with the world's biggest afro.
Where was Cody at the final week? He didn't even show up.
All right, so we're not going to mention Cody Olmsted.
Yeah, screw Cody. In that 4C doesn't even show up for the last week.
Where's he at in points? 25th?
Well, before not showing up, he was 7th in the points. And he fell to 8th.
So he's still top 10, but every week, well, why don't you mention my name? Well, you got to finish top 5, kid.
You got to win, buddy.
You got to be up there.
You get those W's or you got that Earnhardt name behind you, then we'll mention your name.
Yeah.
Or as far as Slingin Dirt's concerned, you got to have the sobbing name or the most name.
So I told him, I was like, well, maybe we'll mention your name one of these days. So I just want to make a shout out. So, all right, let's move on over down the road over here to Shelby County Speedway in Harlan, Iowa. We're going to do top 5 and results. We're going to blow through this really fast
here. I apologize if we covered Crawford a little bit too much, but you just got to understand that Buddy and I are there each and every week, so we know these stories. We don't go to Harlan each and every week, so we don't have a lot of backstory. No, but, so I apologize
also,
if we blow through this.
I'm not really going to apologize because Crawford County season's done. Now, when Shelby County gets done, we can elaborate a little bit more. When Adams County gets done, we can elaborate a little bit more.
Maybe we can have the announcer from Shelby come on and give us his full season breakdown of what happened. I think that's a good idea.
That's a good idea. All right, Sport Compacts, taking home 5th place out of Dunlap, Iowa. Jordan Androy, a hell of a good racer, runs up there at Crawford County Speedway from time to time. I believe every week. Taking home 4th place in the Sport Compact feature out of Portsmouth, Iowa. Taylor Griffin. Taking home 3rd place, Bronson Griffin, I believe that's father-son, but I'm not for sure. Here's a name you might have heard. Taken home 1st, taken home 2nd in this order. Jamie and Kane Malberg. Might have heard of them guys a time or two before. And the Sport Mods.
Yeah, I've heard of the Malbergs.
Yeah, they've been around for a while.
Seriously, though, they put on a hell of a show at Crawford.
Oh, everywhere they go. They're nobody to screw around with in that Sport Compact. Okay, in the Sport Mods, 5th place, Galen Grable out of Harlan, Iowa. Taking home 4th place, Jared Hansen. 3rd, Alan Hopp. 2nd, again, Randy Archer. Man, this guy's on a tear. And, well, Team Crazy, Jesse Sobing, taking home 1st place in that feature again. And I'm pretty sure that was his 100th IMCA career win in the new Jet mod.
Wow.
Listen for that story to come out on the front stretch.
Yeah, we had a good conversation with the guy who designs those chassis. So make sure to listen this Sunday. AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio, 8 a.m. We're gonna have a conversation with Johnny the Jet Sadoff.
The Jet. Anyways, okay, that was bad special.
That was horrible.
All right, stock cars taking home 5th place in the stock cars. Mike Harris. 4th place, Jeff Anderson. 3rd place, Alan Schmidt. 2nd place, Brian Blessington and Keith Knopp taking home the feature win. Those top 5 guys can go just about anywhere in the nation and win on any given night, so that's not real surprising with an finishing order like that. In your late models, great to see 22 late models in the feature Saturday night at Shelby County. Taking home 1st place out of Des Moines, Iowa, Todd Cooney. 2nd, Al Zeitner. 3rd, Jay Stewart. 4th, Kelly Tapper. Not really familiar with him. And 5th, you might have heard of this guy, Barry Sorensen.
I have heard of Barry.
Yeah, Barry's the guy I believe that's in the push truck down, or the tow truck down there at Crawford County Speedway. Yep. And then I believe I'm missing one. Yep, modified. Yeah, you can't forget this.
Don't forget the mods.
The modifieds, from what I understand, the last lap or two was a lot like Watkins Glen. I mean, out of nowhere, the guys that were coming up. 5th place, Jeff Stevens out of Arion, Iowa. 4th place, racer Ricky Steffen. Shane DeMay out of the Denison there. He takes home 3rd place. Wahoo! Mike Albertson taking home 2nd. And Bub Lorette out of Council Bluffs. He was starting to make a good run there at Crawford County the last few weeks, but he takes home the feature win. In your points, in the hobby stock, Shannon Anderson sits on top. 29 points behind Shannon Anderson. Dusty Van Horde, 3rd place. Jason Fusselman, 4th place. Jason Cole in the 96R. Jamie Songer, 86 points out of the lead. That's your hobby stocks and your late models. Todd Cooney is your current points leader, 33 points behind him, Barry Sorensen. 3rd place, Jay Stewart. 4th, Chad Cooney. And 5th, Al Zeitner, 87 points there. In your modified, wow, I had to reread this twice. Racer Ricky
You had to reread it twice.
Yeah. The racer Ricky Steffen out of South Sioux City, Nebraska is your current points leader in the modifieds. Sitting 2nd, 1 point out of the lead. Shane DeMay.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's a good battle right there. 26 points out of the points lead would be Jeff Stevens in third place. Fourth place is Bub Lorette, and fifth is Wahoo Mike Albertson, 70 points out of the points lead there. Moving on to the Sport Compacts. Well, here's another guy. Man, I'm starting to sound like a broken record. First place, the 24, Jamie Malberg. 28 points behind him, Bronson Griffin. 87 points behind that, David Skarenko. I hope I didn't slaughter that name. Fourth place, Scott Brown. And fifth place in the Sport Compacts would be Kane Malberg out of Dunlap. He's 97 points out. In the stock cars, your current points leader, the Flying Brian Blessington out of Breda, Iowa. It's followed by Jeff Anderson. Keith Knopp, fourth place, Alan Schmidt. And fifth, Chris Rett out of Council Bluffs, 74 points out of the lead. And I don't even think we missed the sport mods. Yeah, let me read off sport mods. First place, no surprise, Jesse Sobbing, 39 points out of the lead. Jared Hansen, third place, Randy Archer. Fourth, Cody Olson. And fifth, Dennis Cook, 106 points out of the points lead there. And
we're about 40 minutes into it. Do you want to do those last ones, or do you want to save them for another week?
Let's save them for another week, because there's something real touching that I want to touch on.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Do you want to touch on it today, or?
Yeah, let's
go ahead. Go ahead.
Last week on Slingin Dirt, we were teasing and laughing that I was going to be doing the Relay for Life charity kart race. Mm-hmm. And I am going to tell you right now, thank you tremendously to Bob Sullivan from Mischief Motorsports. He put me in I believe it's his wife. That or an extremely good-looking older daughter. But
careful now. Careful.
Yeah. They put me in her cage cart. The agreement was if I rolled and destroyed her cage cart, she got to race my modified. And let's just say cage carts will never be in my deck of cards when it comes to racing. It was
Did you wreck?
No,
okay, good.
I didn't wreck the car. It was the hardest damn thing I have ever driven in my life. And some guys were like, were you sure the cart was? No. I look like a complete moron out there. I was running the high line. Everybody's, 2 cart widths off to my left running the bottom line. And I think out of a 15-lap feature, I ran dead last, kept up with the field for the first 2 laps. And on the bottom of the track, they have these great big massive hubcap-looking things. And I hit one of those so hard when I drove over the center of it, I felt like I went in for a 40-year colonoscopy and 3 polyps fell out. I mean, it was rough. And then about my third or fourth lap, I spun off into turn 1. I was like, I'm done. But these guys in these cage carts, yes, they're 10-horse motors. They're, a 400, 300-pound cage cart with you sitting in them. People laugh at these guys. No, these guys are true athletes. I mean, it was the hardest. I've driven my ex-wife. I've driven my current wife. I've driven my kids up the wall. I've driven my cars through a wall. I've driven around cars, over cars, through cars. But that was the hardest damn thing I've ever had to drive. With that being said, Hunter Weber, Todd Weber, on behalf of me personally and my family, what you did for the Relay for Life, Hunter Weber is a 15, 16-year-old kid, high schooler, I believe a freshman, sophomore. Mm-hmm. They promoted, organized, ran the races, and they ended up raising $7,000 for the Relay for Life. There was no money to be won, all bragging rights. It was, I was out there purely for fun. I wanted to go race Harlan, but I decided let's go do this instead. What a better shining example of a young man in today's competitive sport where there's a lot of egos and a lot of, heartache, egos, whatever you want to call it. This kid is so down to earth. He's grounded, got a good head on his shoulders. A lot of that comes from his dad. I know them both pretty good from Joe's karting, but I wanted to give a big shout out, and I wanted to tell both of them thank you for letting me participate in this event. But to raise $7,000 in today's economy is tough when you're asking for basically, free money for a good cause.
Not a lot of people can spare those extra couple pennies and dollars. And that's a lot of money to raise.
And $2 and $3 here and there doesn't sound like a lot, but $2 and $3 here and there racked up over a period of time really adds up really quick. And I want to send my sincerest condolences to Hunter Weber. I believe it's his grandfather had cancer. Mm-hmm. His grandfather, while Hunter Weber, from what I was told, I don't know if it's true, but while Hunter was promoting and running the race this Saturday, his grandpa actually passed away from cancer.
That's too bad.
It was either that day or it was Sunday, but it's sometime this weekend. And, I want to send my condolences. Me, Rachel, and the kids send all that out there. But Because of that, I saw Hunter at our 3rd annual Customer Appreciation Day at Joe's, and I think Hunter was kind of blown away. But because a young man can go out and do that, he was formally invited to be the first celebrity driver into the Holiday Horsepower Drive's 5th annual Racing with the Stars, to be a celebrity driver from the kart world. And he's also the first driver confirmed to go to the hospital December 18th to sit down with all the kids and give them hand-wrapped Christmas gifts on behalf of the racing community.
You talk about the Holiday Horsepower, too. I'm going to touch on that. We're getting into 45 minutes, and it's going to be a long Slingin Dirt. But we passed the helmet for you Friday night at Crawford for the final night and raised almost $800 for the Holiday Horsepower.
$759 and some change. Don't quote me on the exact, but it was $759 and some change. You know what's really awesome about that? I can't say thanks enough to everybody. I don't care where you're from, what track, whose fan you are. I can't say thanks enough to everybody. And if I was to say thanks to everybody, I would be here for the next 20 years. Yeah. Writing little notes and whatnot. But Crawford County fans really showed up for that. And, some people are like, well, they only had to give a can of food. You know what? Yes, they gave a can of food, which is great for the tap. And they had a spectacular turnout for that. But nobody is forced to give to the Holiday Horsepower Drive. Yeah. So when we walked up into the stands, we were blown away by the generosity of the fans, and that goes to speak volumes about the community there in Denison and how they feel about dirt track racing, because nobody had to do that.
Definitely. There's
$759 and some change, and that's going to go a long ways.
And that's one thing I've noticed about this community and the dirt racing community is that they come together for their own. And the Holiday Horsepower Drive is a great organization. It's a great cause. Go on to holidayhorsepowerdrive.com today. Find out more information and find out how you can help. Buddy, another great edition of Slingin Dirt. Can't wait to do it next week, and we'll keep you up to date with the Nebraska tracks next week.
Next week, I will give you a little insight. We are going to have Jim Standard, one of the head IMCA officials from Vinton, Iowa. He will be in studio. Awesome. We're going to be talking about some quick changes, some 604 motors. I'm going to give you a heads up, Dan. This is pretty insightful stuff that's coming in for 2013. So it ain't going to be a 20-minute segment. It's going to be a little bit longer one like today.
Well, I'll put my big boy pants on and work a 12 or 13-hour day. Okay.
Bring your Depends. Bring Lindy with you.
Well, I don't think she wants to be around me that long.
No.
We're working on it, though. But thank you so much for listening. We greatly appreciate all the support you show us as Slingin Dirt. And seriously, people, when we talk about NASCAR, we talk about dirt tracking and how racing is so sponsor dependent. We're no different. We are a dirt track conversational piece for a podcast, and we depend on our sponsors just as much as drivers do. So when you hear us talk about Lost Dog Design and the great people at Raina and Dave and what they do for the community, it's not because they gave us money to do this. We have seen no money from them. It's because out of the kindness of their hearts, they upload this, they convert it, they put it on YouTube, they put it on our Facebook page, they run this stuff for us. Out of the kindness of their hearts, they're taking care of us. And so when we sit there and tell you as a driver that you guys need to go and talk to them about how can you help me, you got to do it. For the sake of making sure that we're able to stay doing this podcast each and every month, and for the fact that you're able to get one more thing off of your plate and you're able to focus on your racing.
Yep.
LostDogDesign.com. Talk to Raina and Dave. They'll take care of all of your social networking, all of your website, and all of your graphic arts designs. That is absolutely priceless when you find a graphic arts and you find an awesome. Ooh, boy, I tell you what, it's I love Johnny the Jet Sadoff's website. I give him tons of credit. And your guys' website at Joe's Karting is easy to navigate. If you want to get an example, go to joeskarting.com. It's karting with a K, and check out what Raina and Dave at Lost Dog Design have done. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening to us. Thanks for putting up with us for yet another edition of Slingin Dirt. Thank you so much. We'll see you at the track.